You said what to the insurance adjuster? Hi, it's Ted Spalding. I am a personal injury trial lawyer, and I want in this video to give you a perspective of my 20 plus years of handling injury and accident cases for plaintiffs on what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do when talking with the insurance adjuster for the at-fault party after you've been in a car wreck. And what I want to do in this video is give you what the law is, certainly here in Georgia. It's likely what it is in your state as well, about what you are required to do and not do when talking with the insurance adjuster, what they're going to try to do to get you to talk to them, and ultimately my advice on how best to handle this situation when you're approaching the insurance adjuster and speaking to them. So let's dive right into it. Want to start with the law. The law in Georgia, and it should be in most other states, so check your local law, is you do not have to give a recorded statement to the insurance adjuster for the at-fault party. So the issue becomes, why then do it? So before we get into that, let's talk about what you're going to face if you haven't already after a car wreck when the adjuster speaks to you. The first thing that they're likely going to do is ask you to do a recorded statement. And this is interesting and dangerous because people oftentimes don't get to me until after they've already done it, which leads me to how I started this video. Oh my gosh, what did you say to the adjuster on the record? So the adjusters are going to do everything they can to try to convince you to do a recorded statement. That in and of itself should tell you why you shouldn't do it. It is not for your benefit. It is for their benefit. And if it's for their benefit, it's not going to help you at all. So don't do it. It can be used against you later in court. So their attorney can use your recorded statements and go through, well, you said this back at the beginning and now you're saying something else. So don't put it on the record. That's going to be the big issue. But they're going to do all kinds of different things, all right? I've heard of adjusters telling people it's the law. I've heard them say, we're going to have to shut down the claim if you're not going to do a recorded statement because you're required to do it. We're not going to pay for your bills if you don't do a recorded statement. So really super important to know your rights on what you do and you don't have to do. So they're trying to get it so they can use it against you later. Now, well, Ted, what's the big deal? I don't have anything to hide. No, of course, you never do. But you know how attorneys are. So what they're looking for are things like within 24 hours, 48 hours of the wreck, they're getting a recorded statement from you and they're asking you things like, are you hurt? Well, you may not know yet whether you're hurt. Most likely you probably do, but I've had cases where the onset's several days later. If they capture you saying, no, I wasn't really hurt, and then a year later it turns out you had to have surgeries and you had all these problems, you're not lying. You didn't feel like you were hurt back then, but they're going to use that clip of you saying, no, I was not hurt in court to say, folks, she's lying. Now all of a sudden she was hurt. She grabs a lawyer. Look, you can tell what's going on here. So that's exactly the issue, is taking it out of context, getting it so early before you know what's going on with you, and to have you pigeonholed into certain statements. They might ask you things like distances, speeds, and what we tell people, especially when we're preparing for depositions or testimony in court, unless you were out there with a tape recorder or a measuring stick or measuring tape or a speedometer and you're looking right at the time, you don't know the answer to those questions. So don't get pigeonholed into, oh, it was 100 feet away or I was going 48 miles an hour. You're now stuck with it if you do those sorts of things. So you don't want to do this, especially when you don't have a lawyer yet either. That's the thing. They're going to get to you before you get a lawyer, before you know what your injuries are, and try to get you saying things they can use against you later. So be very careful. Now you know why they're doing it. Knowing why they're doing it, now the question becomes, what do you do in response to the nice ask of, ma'am, may I do a recorded statement to get down what happened? So what I tell people is you want to remain very polite. You understand the system and what their job is. You know what your job is to protect yourself. So you just kindly tell them, thank you so much. I do not want to do a recorded statement at this time. The police report, the photographs, all of the other information I will be getting you about this claim will lay everything out. My medical records, everything for any treatment, it all should be there. If there are any issues going forward, I can certainly answer specific questions, but I don't want to do that at this time and certainly do not want to do it in a recorded fashion. So that's the first way to do it. If they become obtuse about it, hopefully they don't. Most will understand, okay, she knows what she's talking about, but some will, right? Some will pull the, we're going to close the file. Well, what do you do with that? No, my understanding understanding is you must keep my file open. I do not want you closing my claim file. I am still pursuing a claim against your insured and your insurance company. Please keep it open. And you have to, regardless of whether I'm willing to do a recorded statement. If they tell you it's not the law, again, know what the law is. So you want to say, no, that's not the law, ma'am. I do not have to give a recorded statement. Neither does your insured have to give me a recorded statement. So this is only being fair. No one's doing recorded statements. So no, it's not the law. And please, we need to move this claim forward. If she says, we're not going to pay the full amount of your bills unless you do a recorded statement, what I would suggest is just say, okay, I understand that. Now that's not the law, but if you would please put that in writing, email, or a letter. I would like to have that for my file that so and such, let's say it's State Farm, that State Farm is taking the position they will not adjust my claim in good faith unless and until I give a recorded statement. And if they become super obtuse with this, you can always use I would like to get that in writing because I'm going to reach out to the insurance commissioner and let them know what I'm being told, because I don't believe that's the law, nor is it good faith for you to make those types of statements, with all due respect. So again, you're very calm, being very nice about it, when at the same time you're saying, this is the things I'm going to do because this does not make sense, and my understanding of the law is I don't have to give these things to you. Again, the more they push, the more they fight, makes you feel more and more comfortable that they're just trying to get this for their claim to try to harm you, not try to help you in resolving the claim. So those are ways to deal with it. What I would not do is obviously do the recorded statement. If it is not required by your state, then don't do it. It is not going to be beneficial. We tell clients all the time in Georgia, do not do a recorded statement. We tell the insurance companies, my client will not be doing a recorded statement. So don't do the recorded statement. God forbid you decide to do it. Be extremely careful with what you say. You don't want to guess on anything. You do not want to say you are not injured. It is almost impossible to be in a decent size wreck and not have some sort of injury, bruising, a little bit of pain, a headache, something. So be very mindful of saying, no, I am not injured. You just want to say, worst case, you say, well, it's only been 24 hours or 48 hours. I was shaken up. I'm not sure if I'm injured or not. My body, I think, is still trying to process what happened, and I don't know. I would have to update you on that, so I can't really answer that right now, but certainly long term, I'll be able to tell you if I do end up having any injuries from this wreck. That leaves it open, okay, where you're not taking a position, certainly on the record, as to whether you were or were not injured. Most of you, when you're in a wreck, you're going to have some injuries, like I said earlier, so normally you can go through those if you feel the need to, okay, if you're doing this recorded statement. If you do that, you must hit every area of the body that you feel you have an injury, okay? Again, if it's recorded, you don't want to forget the knee if your knee is injured, because again, don't say it now. When you claim it a year later, they're going to say, well, you didn't tell me about the left knee when I asked you in the recorded statement a year ago. You said your neck, your back, your arm, but you never mentioned the knee. So again, this is why it's so problematic to do recorded statements to begin with. But if you're stuck doing it, you better make sure you hit every area of the body. And ultimately, back to the guessing part, please don't guess on speeds, on distances. You want to reference everything as your guess, an approximation, and an assumption. So for instance, if they're asking you, okay, well, how fast were you going right before the wreck occurred? Again, unless you were looking at the speedometer, and I hope to God you weren't at the time of the wreck, you don't know. So you would want to start with something like, well, ma'am, I don't obviously know exactly how fast I was going. I know the speed limit there is 45. I tend to stay right around the speed limit, maybe 5 miles an hour faster than the speed limit at best. So I couldn't tell you. If I had to guess, I would say I was probably somewhere between 40 and 50 miles an hour. But I would just be guessing, ma'am, as to how fast I was actually going at the moment of impact. Same thing with distances. Well, how far away was this when you did this or that? Again, you're going to want to preference anything with, ma'am, I don't know exactly how far away that was. If I had to guess, I would say maybe a football field, or use vehicles, maybe 2 car lengths away. But again, I'm just kind of guessing off of what I can recall there at the time. So again, use these things if you're being forced into the situation with a recorded statement. Certainly if that's your law in your state requiring it, these are some tips to keep the damage minimized when it comes to what you say on a recorded statement. And so hopefully this helps you. Thanks for watching the video. We've got a number of other videos on our channel dealing with all aspects of personal injury and accident related claims, property damage, injury. I hope you check out some of our other videos.